Hey, okay, it's been a little while since I've done my last video, and I figured today was a good day to make a video. It's beautiful outside. It's sunny and pretty, um, and it's just been a really good day. As you can see, my hair is still short from the big chop. If you watched my last YouTube video about how I chopped all my hair off and was kind of freaking out, but I was liking it. So, um, today I thought that I would make a video about my testimony. And um, I've shared my testimony quite a bit, but it's pretty lengthy, and so I don't normally share it a ton because usually they're like different parts of it. But I'm excited to share it with you all. I kind of want to start at the beginning, I guess. That would be good. Since it's a testimony video. So I grew up in a Christian home. I was homeschooled from 6 all the way until 17. So all throughout middle school, all throughout elementary school, all throughout high school, I was homeschooled, which is kind of rare. Not many people are homeschooled like um, their whole childhood and their whole like growing up. But for me, it was a blessing. I was raised by two amazing parents who, my dad's an engineer and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And so she stayed home and homeschooled me and my sister. And it was a blessing. Honestly, I wouldn't go back to it, but for the time that I was homeschooled, like, it was definitely a blessing. And I'm grateful for it. So, I was born in Detroit, Michigan. And my parents came down to Tulsa, Oklahoma. If people are wondering where that is, it's like in the middle, like right in the middle of the U.S. And they came down here to go to Rhema Bible Church when I was 6 years old. And so I was really young. And we stayed in Tulsa for about two years. And then we moved back to Michigan to handle my grandfather's estate, and we stayed there for another like 2, 3 years, and then we moved back to Tulsa or to Oklahoma because my parents felt like God was telling them to move back to Tulsa. And so that was when I was around 11, 12 years old, and I've been here ever since. And so I've basically grown up in Tulsa, like a few years in Michigan, but I'm comfortable, and home for me is where Tulsa is. Like, I love Tulsa. So growing up, like, I grew up in a really, really good home. Like, I grew up in a Christian home, and I was taught to like read my Bible and have a relationship with Jesus, and I was raised around like Christians and like just in a really good environment. But when I was 6 years old, I remember watching a scene on TV, and it was a very sexually immoral scene. Like, it was not a good scene that a 6-year-old should see. And it was in a movie, so it wasn't like I was like looking for it, but I saw it in a movie. And from then on, I just got really curious about sex. And I'm 6 years old. Like, no one had ever told me about it, and I just got really curious about it. And so, from that point on, it was almost like the seed was planted, and that's when I began to become addicted to pornography. And it started around 6, but it just kept going from there. Like, I would see certain scenes and I would just be curious about like the whole thing because I didn't ask questions about it. It was something that just hooked me. And so ever since then, like, if I would see a movie with a sex scene in it or a TV show with a sex scene in it, like, it began to be where I would want to see more and more and more of it. And I didn't know that it was wrong. Like, it took me the longest time to figure out. By the time I figured out that was a sin and that, watching sex scenes and that kind of thing was a sin, like, I was already addicted. And it was around 12 years old that I figured out that, oh, that's a sin. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. And so my parents still didn't know. They still had no idea. And around 12 years old was when I realized, like, I'm addicted to this. Like, even though it's wrong, even though it's a sin, I figured I could hide it because no one knew about it and no one asked about it. Like, we only had one conversation about sex in my whole entire life. And so I just figured I can just keep doing this in secret and no one's going to know. So, and by then I was still going to church. I was still serving at church. I grew up going to church in high school and serving as a greeter. And I kept on doing that in secret without telling anyone. And yes, I felt ashamed. I would try to stop watching those scenes on my laptop or on TV or anywhere I could get it. I wanted to stop, but I was already addicted. And for me, like, I just figured no one has to know about this in secret. I can't stop, and I'm just going to keep doing this. And so, fast forward to 19 years old, I through a series of events, like, I just kept feeling myself, like, getting closer and closer to God, because I would cry out to God and I would say, like, you save me from this. I don't want to do this, but I end up doing it. And I would stop for a few months, and then I would start again, and then I would stop, and then I would start again, and I just got frustrated. And so I finally just said, like, God, I don't believe in you. Like, it was a really, really low point in my life, and I just remember saying, God, I don't believe in you. Like, I've cried out to you. I've tried to get out of this. I've tried to, do it on my own. I've tried to stop looking at pornography and stop being addicted to sex and sex scenes, and it just wasn't working. So I just gave up. I stopped praying. I stopped believing in God, and thankfully, it was only a month period of time that I went through that, but it was a rough month, like, mentally, physically, emotionally. Like, I was fine on the outside, but on the inside, like, I was dying inside. And so I finally just hit rock bottom a month later after saying that I didn't believe in God. I had watched, like, a ton of sex scenes, and I just felt dirty. Like, I felt disgusting. And I finally just hit rock bottom. I, like, sank to my knees in my bedroom, and I just said, God, like, you have got to save me from this. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was desperate. I was hurting. I was fed up with it. Just fed up. And I just finally said, like, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to do this. I don't want to continue doing what I'm doing in secret. And God came in. I felt like whenever I said that, like, I felt like in my heart, you know how you hear, like, a voice inside, but you don't know, like, who it is. And I just felt him inside, and I just heard him say, like, will you let me in? And I was like, yeah. I kind of paused because I was trying to figure out, like, is this God? In that moment, like, tears are streaming down my face. And I was like, yes, I'll let you in. Because I literally didn't have anything else to lose. I had hit rock bottom. I already felt disgusting, so I thought, like, I've got nothing to lose. I might as well say yes. And there's a verse in the Bible that talks about God knocking on the door and asking to come in, and that's what he did. And so after I did that, he came into my heart, and I remember, like, the first time that he came into my heart, like, I was so excited. Like, there was such joy, there was such peace. there was such, I got up from the ground and I started like jumping up and down. Like I felt like a new person. There was like a river of peace flowing inside of me, and there was joy, and I felt crazy. Like night and day. I mean, I was 1 minute I was on the ground, like sobbing, crying my eyes out, like just rock bottom. And then the next minute I was jumping up and down, a huge smile on my face. It felt like Christmas. Like someone had given me the greatest gift ever on Christmas. And it was just wonderful. It was amazing. And so after that, I remember um after I accepted Jesus into my heart, um, I remember that year I could read the Bible, because that was the biggest thing for me growing up. Like, I could never read the Bible because I always was just addicted to pornography, and I couldn't ever just sit down and read the Word and do the things that my spirit wanted to do, but my body was already addicted. And so I remember it was the sweetest, most amazing thing, just being able to read the Word of God and, put the Word of God in and just learn and learn about Jesus and learn about God. And I remember growing for a year or two, and it was wonderful. I ended up sharing the testimony that I'm sharing now on Facebook. I remember putting it out there for everyone to see. Even my parents, they were like, I had no idea that you had gone through all of that, because I didn't tell them. I put it in Facebook, and then they read it on Facebook, and I was like, yeah, I've been through a lot. And for me, it was the shame of it. I didn't know a lot of other girls who were going through this. I didn't know that it was wrong, and by the time I was addicted, I didn't know who else I could tell. And so even when I shared my testimony on Facebook, like I couldn't tell my parents. They saw it on Facebook and they heard the whole story of what I had gone through, but even then it was shame that kept me from being open and honest about what I had gone through. Just because I felt ashamed that I let, myself become addicted to something so disgusting, and that I let the enemy convince me that this was good, that this was okay. Even though it felt good, afterwards it felt horrible. And so I did all of that, and fast forward maybe 2 years after I gave my life to Jesus. It was like a year and a half, maybe. No, it was 2 years. I gotta remember. Oh my gosh, because I gave my heart to Jesus at 19, and it was 2 years later that I felt Him calling me to missions and to China and to just a ton of different places in the world. And so He started just starting this burning in my heart to go on missions and to share the gospel and to share my testimony and to do all of these amazing things. And so that was around 20 years old. I just turned 20, and I remember during that 6 month period, it was from like September 20th or September to like I want to say March of the next year. He's just started to change and shift the way I viewed life and the way I viewed people, and he started to put me in another. He started to, shift my life and move me towards missions and towards sharing the gospel. And so, um, I remember quitting school. I was going to TCC, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was just going because my parents were like, you need to go to school. And so I went, and I remember quitting TCC, and I was working. And so I remember working to save up money to go to Bible school here in Tulsa. And from then, God started stirring my heart for missions. And my church was going on a missions trip to Cambodia. And so I was like, okay, like I wanna go on missions. And they had two trips. One was to Haiti and one was sent to Cambodia. One was less money than the other one. And I remember God asking me like, what do you, which trip is going to cause you to have the most faith and trust me the most with? And so I was like, Cambodia, because it was super expensive. It was like $3,000 at least. And so I was like, he was like, that's the one that I want you to go on. That's the one that I want you to trust me with. And so I was like, okay, Lord, like I can do it. Because I was just growing a lot and like learning and just, I was so excited. Because I was like, oh my goodness, like me and Jesus. And then in the midst of all of that, I had already said yes to Cambodia. I already told my parents. My mom told me, you are not going. And as soon as I told her, I was like, yes. Faith rose up inside of me, and I was like, yes, I'm going. So after all of that, in comes a boy. And I had been going to, it was like I had just been going to certain gatherings and just hanging out with friends and working and things like that. And I got into a relationship during that period of time while I was working and saving up money and raising money for missions. And we started dating. I was 20 years old, and it wasn't a bad relationship. Like we didn't do anything wrong physically, or you know, we didn't go too far or push boundaries or any of that. But I was also really naive. I had never been in a relationship before, and I had told God, like, the first person that I marry the first person I date, I'm going to marry. So I was thinking whenever, which is really like a naive thing to say, like, because I knew, like, I didn't know then that you have to get in a relationship and see how the relationship goes. And so I didn't do that. And I was just thinking, like, the first person that I date, I'm going to marry. Um, so when we broke up, it was devastating to me, honestly. I was still dealing with a lot of low self-esteem issues. Like I didn't see myself as beautiful. I didn't see myself as valuable. I just thought I'm lucky to have any guy be interested in me. So I'm just going to make this work. Even though he may not be everything that I'm wanting, I'm just going to make this work because I'm not worthy of a relationship with a guy. Like I don't think that I'm beautiful or valuable. I didn't know all of this about myself, but looking back, that was what made me stay. And so um, we broke up maybe a week before I went on my first mission trip to Cambodia. And it was one of the hardest, roughest things that I had ever gone through, still to this day. The pain was intense. And through that, out of that, God took me on a journey of healing where He healed my heart and He showed me how valuable I am and how beautiful He created me and just of how worthy of His love I am. Not because of anything that I've done, but because of who I am. He created me fearfully and wonderfully. And it's been a 6-year journey. You know, I've gone on missions and I've served in the church and, done all the Christian things in following Jesus. And I've loved all of it. I've loved being a part of all of it. But the biggest thing for me has been having my soul transformed by Jesus. I no longer believe that I'm worthless. I no longer believe that I'm inferior. I love who God has created me to be. I even love the color of my skin and my hair. Like those are the two things I hated. And I love them now because God has made me fearfully and wonderfully. And I trust Him with my life. And I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful that He's done everything that He's done and that He's created me the way that He's created me. I love being unique and different, and that has been the biggest soul transformation for me. And so I just wanted to share my testimony with you guys, and I hope that you guys can learn I hope you guys are inspired and encouraged by what I've gone through. That there's nothing that you've done in secret that no one knows about that's too much for God, or that's too sinful or too gross for Him to love you. Like, He loves you right where you are. Like, it doesn't matter if you've done drugs, if you've had sex, if you've whatever it is, God loves you just the way you are, and you are fearfully and wonderfully made. He has a plan for your life, and He loves you so much. He's just waiting for you to reach out to Him. He's right there. He's never left you, and He'll never leave you. And He has a plan for your life. He has a purpose of why you're here on earth, and He loves you just the way you are. You don't have to clean yourself up to go to Him, or get better before you reach out to Him. Like, just call on Him, and He's right there, just waiting to love you. So I hope this was inspiring and encouraging to you guys. I'm going to be posting more videos about missions and about what God's done in my life and the different countries that I've gotten to visit and just all of that fun stuff. So if you like my channel, hit subscribe, like, and there will be more videos probably about like hair and fashion and just all kinds of stuff, and more about my relationship with God as well. And I hope you guys have a beautiful day. And yeah, that's it. Bye.